to its lack of complexity. But the creative path has its own set of challenges, and I struggled mightily to make ends meet when first committing to go all in on photography as my sole income. Even though a novice's freelance income was barely enough to fill the food bin in my van, the benefits of waking up far from the din of civilization in a place of my choosing and allowing the cycles of the sun and weather to dictate the activities of each day had its rewards. Chasing the magic hours of light and finding the perfect frame often brought me to places of breathtaking beauty and introduced lifelong friendships. This, and my life with Denali, became everything to me until cancer leaped out of the dark and grabbed me by the throat. Colorectal cancer. The word cancer alone was terrifying enough. I was unaware that the barrage of physical, emotional, and bureaucratic indignities endemic to the medical and insurance industries here in America would nearly drown me. In the prime of my 20s, I felt invincible. No one at that age anticipates a cancer diagnosis, much less a form of the disease usually associated with people far into their retirement years. Even more devastating to my young ego, colon cancer in particular carries both a stigma and symptoms that most people prefer not to discuss in public. As the traffic grew sparse and suburbia gave way to coastal forests, my mood lifted and I began to anticipate a glimpse of the Pacific sparkling through the trees. During my childhood in western Michigan, Lake Michigan was my ocean. Near the south end of the lakeshore town of Grand Haven, there's a corner where the road crests above the dunes and where the view always hit me like a four-shot espresso, as the expanse of the lake offered new breath to overcome whatever challenges I faced. With the reality of the battle ahead beginning to sink in, reaching the Pacific was a welcome reminder that in spite of all that stood in front of me, there were much greater powers at play. My worries, an early death from cancer versus a long life burdened with wearing a shit bag, were somehow insignificant once I began to feel the pull of the currents and the tidal rhythms dictated by a moon that circled hundreds of thousands of miles above. We pulled up to a stretch of beach just north of the postcard famous Haystack Rock at Cannon Beach, and as I stripped down to board shorts, Denali looked on with concern. He'd always been tuned into my worries, often well before I was even aware of them, and he hadn't taken his eyes off me since I'd been diagnosed just days earlier. As I began to sprint across the sand and into the sea, every step jostled the shock deeper. My body, I knew, would never be the same with a poop bag hanging from my abdomen. Denali matched me stride for stride. My pace slowed as the currents tugged at my waist, and I dove into the icy 50-degree water. Coming up refreshed, I realized Denali was still beside me, swimming determinedly, since by now it was much too deep for him to stand. Skin tingling from the cold baptism, I stood still, staring at the glowing horizon, my despair slowly shifting to a sense of determination. A set of swollen waves appeared before us, and I saw Denali's eyes widen with the realization that he was outside his comfort zone. As the first wave neared, he spun and began swimming frantically toward the shore. He was driven by fear and yet in perfect sync with the wave, and as it caught him, he somehow slid down its face with the grace of a porpoise, the glassy surface continuing onward, pushing him along before releasing him in the shallows. I laughed out loud at the joy of seeing my pup catch his first wave, and realized that there was a lesson in this. We're powerless to fight the unexpected swells in life, and there are times when the only choice is to let go of the perception that we're in control and simply allow the wave to carry us through. I played the scenarios over and over in my mind. Would I be able to climb with a colostomy? Surf the waves I had yet to explore? Love a woman? Or have a woman be attracted to me? I hugged Denali, and he looked up at me with a confidence that gave me hope I would somehow make it through all this. We'll ride out this wave together, I thought. Thank you, Denali. Chapter 1. First Sight. A dog is foremost an instrument of personal growth. It exists to ease your existential anxieties, impart lessons about love and friendship, and teach you how to be a better person. David Dudley. After completing a sports medicine program at Grand Valley State University, I moved from the Great Lakes to Oregon with Melanie, the woman I had just married at the wise young age of 23. She was 20. Neither of us had ever visited the West Coast before, but the allure of the mountain